Get ready, because it's time for Geek Bombast, the weekly podcast dedicated to bringing you news and general discussion on comics, movies, TV, video games, and anything else deemed totally awesome. On the show this week is Amanda Arias and myself, John Sitton. Love is in the air.
I was just gonna sing that. How'd you know?
Because this is our,
It's our Valentine's Day episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming out a little bit before Valentine's, but we're getting prepared for it.
Yeah.
We're here to set the mood for your Valentine's. So turn those lights down low, turn up that jazz, that whatever music,
the first thing that came in my head was the sexy saxophone player.
Yeah. Maybe
don't turn that song up.
Maybe some Michael Bolton. Turn some Michael Bolton on.
Yeah.
Put on some Michael Bolton. So turn the lights down low and prepare for the soothing sounds of Amanda and I's voice to talk to you about all things related to
relationships. Oh my god. We should have asked anybody if they had relationship questions for us.
Oh yeah, that would have been a good one. I'm sorry. I didn't think ahead that well.
You don't want relationship advice.
I'm bad at relationship advices, so but we got we're going to kind of skip over the news really, because I mean, I know some stuff happened, like the video game Apex, the free to play battle royale game Apex got announced and released this past week. Mm-hmm. They dropped the trailer for the live action Aladdin, in which we see some bad CGI. Yeah,
I was kind of into it until they showed the genie, and then I was like, oh, I'm out again.
Yeah. And then there's probably been some other stuff, some comic book related stuff. Mm-hmm. There's actually been some good stuff related to comics, like some actual really good books came out this week. But also some not so great ones. Mm-hmm. Female Furies seem to really upset you.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I already had a rant last week. I'm not gonna go into a new rant this week.
If you want, you can. But,
now it's not the time, and I'm not gonna rant about a first issue.
Yeah.
Like if I catch a glimpse of the next two issues, and I don't like them, then maybe I'll be like, you have to let me on this next episode because I gotta talk about it. But otherwise, I think I'm gonna.
Yeah. But before we're going to talk about a game that we played, a board game, which is something that we don't actually talk a whole lot about on this podcast.
Tabletop
games. I hope that we talk about it more often.
Uno? I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah.
Uno?
Yeah, Uno. We hope to talk about more tabletop games in the future on the podcast and everything. So, I mean, it's definitely something I think when we did the podcast before we stopped doing it 4 or 5 years ago or whatever, mm-hmm. I didn't really play a lot of tabletop games. And then now we kind of do play a lot of card games and tabletop games. We do,
yeah. I mean, we have a monthly tabletop game night that we do
with friends. And
then we have almost a second monthly,
bi-monthly tabletop thing where it's like a bunch of people, even people we don't really
know. It's a friends of friends show
we have
up
a monthly thing where we go in and we know ahead of time what we're playing, and then we have kind of like a bi-monthly play whatever board game night. So I mean, it's something we dabble, and I know other members of the podcast have dabbled and do dabble as well. Mm-hmm. But we'll talk about that in a minute. We're not, like I said, we're not going to do news this week, but I wanted to kind of touch on some romance in other media before we actually get to that. And this is kind of off the cuff. We don't have lists set up to what we want to talk about. And I apologize, my chair is a little bit more squeaky than I realized. So that may be picked up on the microphones, but that's fine.
It's squeaking chair and totally not a different farting sound.
Yeah. But yeah, so comics. I know 2 weeks ago, DC did their Love in Space or something like that, I think it was called.
Oh, yeah.
Book, which was, I think I actually might even have it in here, but, yes, Mysteries of Love in Space is what it was called, and it's actually it was kind of a fun little book. It's an oversized issue. It was an 80-page giant. Mm-hmm. it was kind of an anthology kind of thing. I actually like the fact that it's the cosmic agony and ecstasy of mysteries of love in space, and the cover's like Superman kind of in the background, kind of cursing and looking on as Lois Lane is like lovingly embracing Darkseid, and Superman's like, I don't get it. What does Lois see in him? And she's like, Darkseid is the love of my life.
He just makes me laugh.
Yeah, there is no story based on that image. That's just for the image of the comic. It's just a cute, I love the cover. The cover is actually the reason I bought this.
Yeah.
And it's actually pretty fun. Like, it actually has, strangely enough, it does have an apocalyptic love story in a way, and kind of talks about the birth of one of the Furies, the female Furies, on how she became the way she is. And then, and then had some other stuff. There's a Green Lantern story with Kilowog. There's another one with Bizarro getting kind of falling in a love story as he's flying through the universe. And, there's a Space Cabbie story, which I love because Space Cabbie is one of the weirder DC characters, but it's a love story of him and his cab.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he loves, his cab has an AI in it, and it's about how he falls in love with his...
That makes me think of the episode of Futurama where Scruffy's mop becomes, it embodies, like, Amy's body, and he has to reject her because it will never work out because he's a human and she's a sentient mop.
Oh, yeah. There's also a story with the character of Crush, who is the illegitimate daughter of Lobo.
Allegedly.
About her and in a relationship, and like I said, and then there's also a story with about from Lois's point of view of kind of her dealing with, or her basically coming to terms with Superman or Clark Kent revealing that he is Superman to her, and her feelings about that, and kind of writing a story about her or what she felt about it. The cloth scratching that you're hearing is our dog again. She's trying to get comfortable.
She's digging a hole.
Yeah. But no, it was a fun little book. I thought it was actually a lot of fun, and I wish...
When was this released?
Like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
This came out like 2 weeks ago.
So it was kind of with Valentine's on the mind.
Definitely, yeah. It was definitely with Valentine's on the mind, and I kind of wish Marvel had done something similar. I like these little things, and DC seems to be doing more of them lately.
Yeah.
Which I'm totally on board for, and I think this is great. Because there's not really a whole lot of romance comics anymore, really, outside of like indie books.
Right. Yeah. Also, don't get too invested in romance when it comes to superhero comics.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, I love Lois and Clark, but there's a good chance that they're not going to stay together forever.
Oh, they might get retconned out of continuity of being married.
Are you a fan of Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle being together? Because I have bad news for you.
Yeah.
Do you like Peter Parker and Mary Jane being married couple? Sometimes it's not a thing that happens. So
yeah, because writers don't. There's a thing that married superheroes don't sell comics. Because the comics
sell that to the Fantastic Four.
It's also weird because it's this weird thing of the argument for it is comics are for kids, and kids don't want to read stories about a character who has kids. They don't want to read a story about a superhero who's their parents' age, who has kids and is dealing with the fact of being a father or a mother, in addition to doing a superhero.
They want to read about Batman adopting a child, but he's single, so it doesn't count.
Yeah, but also, at the same time, both DC and Marvel's comics, the stories are geared more towards late teenagers and early 20-somethings.
It's like a scattershot of marketing ideas.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, but the stories should be dark and gritty that appeal to teenagers and adults. But if married couples don't sell the kids, but the color blue doesn't work, so you have to, you know what I mean? It's just like, you guys need to calm down and maybe pick something and lean into whatever one you want to do. But
Yeah.
You can't force it all in one.
Yeah. But let's switch over from comics. Because, I mean, like we said, in superhero comics, it's any relationships don't last, unfortunately. Unless there's not really, I mean, I don't really read a lot of romance comics, so I can't really, outside of like Sex Criminals or...
That was the most romantic movie I could think of. Or comic.
Or even, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
I know that it was like Love is Love, which was the, I want to say it was DC. I feel like it was DC.
Yeah.
Which came out,
yeah, that came out a while back ago, but yeah, that was...
2 years ago.
That was their, LGBTQ...
Yeah, but it was like love stories and stuff. I mean, you could just talk about like Alex plus Ada.
Yeah.
It was a nice, like, robot human, or, like, android human romance, or, I like Saga is a romantic book.
Saga is actually a good one. I wasn't even thinking about that, but that was actually a very good one.
Those are the, like, initial... I don't read a lot of romantic stuff. Like, so I'm reading a book called Unnatural, which is a anthropomorphic... Is that right?
Yeah.
Furries... that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a pig. And there's a lot of sex in it. It's a French comic that's been adapted to English. Or not adapted. Translated is the word I'm thinking of. Sorry, we're doing this pretty late. My brain is not all to here. It's translated to English, so it is a little more like adult than what you would get in like an American indie. Well, maybe not. I mean, you talk about Sex Criminals. But... it's a world where you're not allowed to be in a relationship with anyone that's a different species than you. So, like, pigs have to marry and reproduce with pigs, and wolves have to marry and reproduce with wolves. And they have, like, a government-regulated thing that forces them to get... So if you're at a certain age, if you're at, like, essentially peak breeding age and you're not married, your taxes go way up. And so if you like get married and then you start having kids, then life is just easier for you. So that's like the goal. But then there's this whole like conspiracy as to why it's like that. And this character that you follow, who's a pig, she kind of falls into this weird like story of like why and conspiracy. So like everyone she knows and loves, like bad things start happening around her because of it. And but it is a love story. It kind of turns into a love story. She has these dreams about a wolf, and it's kind of this past lives thing on top of a government thing.
It's a lot going on.
It is, considering that there's only been 6 issues, and but yeah, that's probably the most recent like romantic book I've read. And I love it. I live for it. But I don't know if it's for everyone. If you're somebody that's like against like furry sex, essentially, you're probably not going to like it. I'm not like a furry. Definitely not. I was 100% turned off by the idea of reading it. It was suggested by a friend, and I just finally like said forget it and decided to read 1 issue. And then after I read that first issue, I was like, all right, give me the rest, because this is clearly something I want to get into.
Yeah.
But I actually highly recommend it as far as a romantic story. It's got a lot of really nice elements into it. It's not something that leans too hard into like, ooh, will they, won't they, or like, oh, quirky romantic comedy or something. Like there's a lot of intrigue and action and like betrayal and stuff going on in it too.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then and then in the land of video games, obviously there's like dating simulators.
Like Dream Daddy.
Like Hatful Boyfriend. What is that monster one?
Monster Prom?
Monster Prom. That one's a fun one. I actually really like that one.
Yeah, it was thoroughly enjoyable.
There's dating sims. Obviously they have games that have relationships in them. Nathan Drake and his wife, or the character who ends up becoming his wife. I can't remember her name. I'm blanking at the moment. But, you know, there's usually like a love story tied into the game story in a lot of games. But typically, if you're playing something that's just a romance story, it's typically a dating sim or a visual novel.
Some kind of chick game. You know how it is.
Yeah. But movies, there's tons of romantic movies. Really good ones. You know, you have anything from... and what are some of your favorite?
I really like When Harry Met Sally. I think is one of my all-time favorite romantic movies. I'm a huge fan. I think it's great.
No, it's a great movie.
I'm trying to think of like.
I think it's probably the most realistic depiction of a relationship in a movie that I can think of.
Yeah. Like
it's not fantastical. Like there are moments of that, but then it shatters that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just very like. I don't know. The most you get is like bringing characters together a lot in a like, well, that seems unrealistic that they're just going to constantly keep running into each other. But besides that, it's pretty straightforward. Like these people didn't like each other at first and then run into each other and decide to become friends after that. And they become friends for a while. And then after a long time of growing up with each other or like... developing as people with each other, they realize that they love each other and they end up together. And I like those kinds of stories as opposed to like, and then they looked at each other from across the room. Like, I really enjoyed, oh my God, I can't think of what it's called.
Who's in it?
It's a Shakespeare play. I'm just trying to think of, it's with Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson. It's funny because it was in my head.
I think I know which one you're talking about, but my brain is also blanking on the title. That's what...
I'm literally going to type Shakespeare and Kenneth Branagh and see what comes up. Much Ado About Nothing.
Thank you, yes.
That would have driven me crazy if I was just going to, like, leave it alone. So I really love Much Ado About Nothing, which does have a silly, like, star-crossed lovers, and they see each other once and are like, I have to be with them. And then it also has the... Benedict and Beatrice, who are they seem to have some kind of history together, and then constantly one-up each other with their wit, and are kind of mean to each other, but in a way that they have a compatible sense of humor. So they're mean, and from the outside it seems like they're being harsh or cruel to each other, but in actuality it's more of a challenging thing between them that they both like to engage themselves in. And I really like, I always loved their love story. I always thought it was fantastic. And I'm a huge fan of Emma Thompson and Kenneth Branagh together, in Shakespeare stuff. So that's one of my like favorite romantic comedies.
I tend to go for either the quirky John Cusack romantic comedies.
His weird,
like with the exception of Serendipity.
God, I hate Serendipity.
I hate that movie so much.
Yeah,
I saw that in a plane on a flight to Denmark on an airplane, and I was just like, wow, this movie is garbage. With the exception of that.
That movie is a prime example of like bad movie logic, where it's like, you could have just gave him your phone number. But it's like, no, I'm going to put it in a book, and I'm going to tell you the title of the book, and then the book will find its way to you eventually. And like, it's just, why? But why?
Yeah, it's a weird...
Why?
Yeah, but no, I tend to be, High Fidelity, Grosse Pointe Blank, which those are quirky kind of love stories. I mean, they are.
I mean, Grosse Pointe Blank is definitely a love story, and I think I would put High Fidelity as a love story. It's a weird, like, breakup and then get back together story.
Like, it's funny because High Fidelity is the movie that every guy I know, when they have a bad breakup, that's their guy breakup movie, is High Fidelity. Everyone I know. Like, this is not even something where it's the same grouping of friends.
Yeah.
This is like just everyone I've ever talked to, it's like, oh, like, what movie do you watch after you've have like a really bad breakup? And everyone's like, I'm just going to watch High Fidelity and eat ice cream or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why that movie?
What happens?
I watch that movie because it's one of those movies that, strangely enough, inspires me. Like, in a weird way, like, it gets my mental creative juices flowing. That and SLC Punk, which is not a love story, but there's love elements of relationship stuff in there.
I always liked Heroin Bob and whatever the hell that hippie chick his name is. I always liked them being together.
Yeah.
I always like listening to Heroin Bob talk about her because it's something that kind of is a subplot and a kind of a buried subplot at that. But, like, from the get-go, he talks about her, and he's very, like, I know she's older, but, like, she's so smart.
She is like a goddess, and I am, like, caught in her light of glory.
And
I'm mesmerized by everything that when she speaks, it's like the voice of God.
We only see one side of Heroin Bob.
Yeah.
But I love when there's more to a story than what we're given.
Yeah.
And she's not just into him because he's some younger guy that's into her.
Yeah.
Like, she clearly has had moments with him that we don't get to see, where they're connected in some way.
Yeah. No, definitely. There's scenes later on where it's very clear that she is
just as much enamored with him as he is with her.
And also, apparently, the sequel movie is about their kid.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen that.
We have to, but I'm worried about seeing it. Like, I'm worried it's going to be garbage. And I don't know. I'm pretty good at, like, separating out what the sequel is versus the original, but still.
Yeah. But you know, but movies like, going back to the actual topic though, but you know, like those type of movies, and also like strange, almost fantastical versions of relationship movies, like Forgetting Sarah Marshall, or Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, or Enchanted. I don't know why I love Enchanted as much as I do, but I really like that movie. Yeah,
I don't know why you like it as much as you do either. I don't dislike it, but it's just like, you bring it up and you're like, yeah, I just really love how, like, it's like a live action Disney, but it's just like, you really into it.
Yeah, no, I don't know why. That's one of those, like, I watch it and I'm like, everything about this tells me I shouldn't hate it. Like, there's nothing about it that I would hate, but there's nothing that makes that about it that's really like, I should love this as much as I do. It's like, I don't know why I like this.
I fall into obsession occasionally.
Yeah.
It happened with a television series called Roswell. It happened with the Spice Girls, and it happened with a movie called Moulin Rouge.
Yes.
There are many women my age who, when Titanic came out, they watched it as many possible times they could. I have, because I was the girl that age, of the appropriate age, I saw that movie, Titanic, a bunch of times because I would go with, like, friends. And they would the only thing they wanted to do every weekend was go watch Titanic. So eventually I saw Titanic a bunch of times.
The only other movie other than Titanic that I know that happened with, other than the one that I think you're about to talk about, is, like, Romeo and Juliet.
Romeo plus Juliet, the Baz Luhrmann one?
Yeah, the Baz Luhrmann one.
Yeah. And so I don't like the Titanic movie. Like, that's just, it's fine. It's like, whatever. It's like a romantic movie, whatever. I hate 3-hour movies, even then. And, but speaking of Baz Luhrmann, with Moulin Rouge, which was a Baz Luhrmann movie as well, I watched that movie so much. So I watched it as often, like every weekend while it was in theaters. And then it left theaters. And then I believe it came out on, like, DVD.
Yeah.
And I got it and watched it. And then when the Oscars came around, they brought it back to theaters. And I watched it in theaters again. And I have that movie memorized so much that I don't watch the movie anymore because I don't need to watch the movie anymore. Like, it's ingrained in me.
Yeah.
I ruined that movie for people because you're the friend that becomes the, like, you should go. Oh my God, you haven't seen Moulin Rouge? Go watch it. And then I'd sit next to them and I would say every line and sing every song because I was completely in love with this movie. Yeah. It was the feeling of love was that. Like, that was probably my first real true feeling of, like, love, of, like, romantic and oh my God, this is and that's really not how I see romance now.
Yeah.
But it was just like how I wanted it to be then.
Yeah.
And so it was just something that like I've always gravitated towards.
Yeah. No, it's a good movie. Like I do really like that movie. It's a very good movie. But yeah,
there's like weirder ones. I think Ewan McGregor for me is John Cusack for you.
Okay.
Because he did Moulin Rouge, and then he did probably not in this order. I don't know what order it was in, but Life Less Ordinary.
Yeah.
With Cameron Diaz was also a movie that I loved as far as like a weird, very of the time, like 90s.
Yeah.
Romantic comedy where he like kidnaps Cameron Diaz and then they fall in love, but like he barely kidnapped her. Like it was her idea and she kind of like tricked him into kidnapping her. And there's angels sent from heaven trying to force them to get together.
Yeah.
And it's like but that element is really weird. But meanwhile, I love that sort of like weird element.
Yeah.
He was also in Down with Love, which was him and Renee Zellweger, where it's a throwback to the old like 1950s musicals of the time, very like Doris Day movies.
Yeah.
Where it was just this, it's a weird misunderstanding, but now they hate each other, but they really love each other. And now like Ewan McGregor is playing a like man about town, almost like romantic comedy version of Don Draper without like the tragic shit. And he trying to trick Renee Zellweger into falling in love with him for a scoop for his magazine, like his Men About Town magazine. And then it turns out like there's another twist and it's like a whole silly thing. And I don't know, Ewan McGregor's in a lot of these kinds of movies, and it's usually, if he is, I'm going to fall madly in love with it.
Yeah, I can get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why John Cusack's romance movies are the ones that...
Better Off Dead?
Yeah, Better Off Dead.
Or he falls in love with a French foreign exchange student?
Yes.
Say Anything? Did you ever watch that?
Say Anything's another one, yeah.
I've never seen Say Anything. All I know is that he holds a boombox over his head.
It's not my favorite John Cusack movie, but it's totally, it's definitely one of those that I like. Mm-hmm. But I don't like it enough that I don't own it, for example. But I've seen it.
What about America's Sweethearts? Do you know what I'm talking about? It was like Hollywood Sweethearts or something like that.
Yeah.
Where his character was previously married to Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Them two acted in a lot of movies where they were formerly in relationships with each other.
Yeah, so they were two Hollywood actors, and they broke up, and they hadn't seen each other in like a year, and now their final movie is finally finished, and so they have to go to this press junket in the middle of nowhere, because the director is this like weird guy that like forced a lot of stuff, like I don't know, it was just weird. Played by Christopher Walken.
Yeah,
and
I vaguely remember
Julia Roberts plays Catherine Zeta-Jones's sister and personal assistant.
That's right.
So Catherine Zeta-Jones broke up with John Cusack to get with Hank Azaria.
That's right. I do remember this movie.
It's such a weird movie.
It's a weird movie.
Yeah. Julia Roberts was like a former, like he didn't recognize her at first because she used to be like fat, which she's not fat anymore.
Yeah, she also had like a weird haircut.
Well, and then they had to like kind of force why would Catherine Zeta-Jones and Julia Roberts be siblings? So Julia Roberts had to have like dark brown hair, and it was very straight, and they like tried to make her look a little Catherine Zeta-Jonesy.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. No, it was I do remember that movie. Now the more you talk about it, I'm like, oh my god, I do remember watching this movie.
Yeah, Billy Crystal's in it. He's like an agent for them.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There's so many people. in this stupid movie.
But the point is that there's a lot of good and bad.
I mean, enjoy what you like. I like most romantic movies. Yeah. If it gives you a good feeling, like a lot of people, there's been a lot of like shit talk about the movie Overboard with
the original
Kurt
movie,
Russell and Goldie Hawn,
and they did the remake with
oh God,
I can't think of that
Anna
name.
Faris, and I forgot I don't know the guy's name off the top of my head, but because they made that remake, people like went back and thought about Overboard and how Kurt Russell's character manipulates Goldie Hawn the entire time, and like it's like a Stockholm syndrome thing or whatever, and it's just like it's a romantic comedy. Like if you're thinking that hard into like the psychology of it, then I don't know what to tell you, but maybe you shouldn't be watching that movie then.
Yeah,
like because I enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun when I watched it, and I used to watch it all the time. And I'm obsessed with Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn.
Who isn't?
So just let it happen.
Yeah, who isn't obsessed with Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn?
Mm-hmm. They were also in a romantic movie called Swing Shift, but
I vaguely remember that movie.
It takes place when women were World War II, when women were in the workforce.
Yeah.
And was it World War II or World War I? It was World War II, just thinking about the clothing that they were wearing. And Kurt Russell couldn't join the war efforts, so he was working in a warehouse, and then Goldie Hawn was married, but her husband was overseas, and she was working to try to keep their house, basically. And they fall in love, and they have a romance while her husband's away, and then when her husband comes back, she ends up back with her husband. So don't look for a happy ending on that one. That's the movie they met on.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot about him.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, everybody.
Nothing to apologize for on that.
Yeah.
But let's go into what we're here to talk about. Mm-hmm. We just played, and when I say just, I mean like just a few hours ago.
Yeah.
We came for the first time,
relaxed, and then came into this room to record.
Yeah. So we went to a friend's house and played a game called Fog of Love. This is it's a board game for up to 2 different players. Mm-hmm. The website for it is fogoflove.com.
Who would have guessed?
And it's available to purchase if you're outside of the United States. So in Europe, Canada, and Australia, they have listings of all the stores that actually sell their game on their website. If you are within the United States, it is a Walmart.com exclusive. Meaning that you can't buy it in store at Walmart, but you can buy it on their website. There are 3 expansions, but we haven't played any of the expansions.
Nope.
We've only played the main game. Mm-hmm. Like I said, it's 2 players, but the great thing about it is that it's interesting enough in that people who are watching, you can have a spectators. Like you can actually you can play. I mean, the great thing about it is like it's actually kind of a quick game. It's not like super long. Like you can probably play.
I mean, it might take a while if no one knows how to play it initially. But once you get the swing of it,
and you know what you're doing, like you can get through an entire game in about maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours.
I mean, we had there's a tutorial that comes with it, so you can play like a tutorial round, which is a bit shorter and kind of makes you take everything in its own pace.
Yeah.
So it won't like throw you everything, so you're not like juggling a bunch of like different points at the same time. But after you play that, I feel fairly confident that we could play it without having somebody like there to guide us.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. But the great thing about it is like you can either get a group of friends together, get 4 to 6 people, and 2 people are playing and the other people are just enjoying.
Mm-hmm. It's like watching a romantic comedy.
Yeah. Or you could even, have people play in teams. Like, these people play as one team, as one person, and these group of people play as the other people. The description of the game, because I'm looking at their website right now, is Fog of Love is a game for 2 players. You will create and play 2 vivid characters who meet, fall in love, and face the challenge of making an unusual relationship work. Playing Fog of Love is like starring in a romantic comedy. It's a roller coaster ride of awkward situations, laugh out loud moments, and difficult compromises that you have to make. Just like in a real relationship, you might want different things. Do you stay true to yourself, or do you do what your partner wants for the good of the relationship? You can even decide to break their heart. There's no guarantee it will end happily ever after, but you'll always get a story full of surprises that will make you smile. So that's the description on of the game, essentially.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually a really good description. So we played it. The great thing about it, I think, is also pretty cool, is they have 3 different... they actually have it set so that there's 3 different cover boxes for the game, so you can get it so that it's a male and a female in the box, or you can get it where it's 2 females or it's 2 males. So they're basically, it's inclusive to all types of relationships. They even have enough pieces that if you want it to be 2 female players, you can actually play 2 female or 2 male or
male and female.
Yeah, it's inclusive to everybody, and I think that's great because I feel like there's not a lot of games that of this nature that do that.
Right.
But yeah, so we sat down and played.
Right.
I guess let's kind of explain a little bit about the game.
Well, okay, so let's go through, we're obviously not going to give you, a step-by-step on how to play it. But, so, you play a character and I play a character.
Yeah.
From there, you, draw cards and you select traits that have specific goals attached to them. Traits like cynical, perfectionist, cocky... just personality traits. So that really dictates how you're going to respond to scenarios that are being brought up later on in the game. You're also given features that are chosen by the other person. So if me and John are playing, or John and I are playing, John would pick the features for me and I would pick the features for him. And these are the first things your character noticed about that character. So if I say your character had long blonde hair and I just noticed how beautiful and long his hair was and I just thought it was a really unique thing and whatever. We don't create the scenario of how we met, because typically that's part of the game. There's specific packs of when you're playing this storyline. Yeah,
there's multiple stories.
Yeah, there's Sunday morning date, and we had we played 2 rounds. We played it twice, and one was the Sunday morning date, and the other one which is the tutorial, and then we played High School Sweethearts.
Yeah,
and so that's kind of, it already explains how we meet, so we don't have to create that scenario. But really, we're just trying to help each other develop our characters. You also get to choose an occupation, and all of these have points attached to them in certain attributes. So it would be discipline, creativity, kindness, I think was one of them, that kind of thing. So as you're going through, there's typically only 3 rounds, much like a movie. You would have the intro, the beginning
structure, 3 chapter or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So
3 act structure. Thank you.
That's the word.
That's what I was looking for.
And so, and then from there, we pull cards that have specific scenarios or questions. So sometimes it's, there was an argument between us. What do you think your response is gonna? What do you think the other player's response is gonna be? What would my response be? And you the way you answer changes what your
Some cards it'll be if you both get the same answer, if you both choose the same answer. Sometimes there's benefits of that. Sometimes there's actually negative aspects if you both choosing the same answer. Sometimes if sometimes if you choose different answers, there's benefits to that or negative impacts to that.
And also your personality traits are secret.
Yeah.
So if I'm cynical, I don't tell John I'm cynical. My character comes off as cynical because that's all my answers would kind of lean towards whatever the point system is that would
because you're essentially, you have 2 goals essentially in this game. One is you have, like you said, you have the traits, and the traits say you need this number of points in an aspect.
Yeah.
The aspects are the other things that we talked about that she mentioned. There's I want to say there's there's
6. I think it's 6.
I think there might be 10. There's 2 for each thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. So there's like a positive and a negative of each
aspect.
So if one's like discipline, then a positive of discipline would be that you're a disciplined person. You're like a motivated person. And then the negative version of that would be like you're very lazy. Yeah. You're not organized kind of thing.
And so your traits is you want points. You have two different types of traits. There's traits in which the goal is a personal, individual. So you want to have either positive of this trait or negative of this trait, and you want to get a certain number. And the other thing is that if you have points in both positive and negative, they cancel each other out.
Right.
So you need to have a certain number in the positive or a certain number in the negative. Sometimes it's individual, so it's just your points that matter. Sometimes it's a shared thing where you want both yourself and your partner to both be putting points in there so that you can meet that goal.
Right. Yeah, because that goal would be, typically if it's shared, it's a higher goal. So instead of like, you need 2 points in this, in discipline, it would be like, you need 5 or more points in discipline, which would be a little harder to do.
Yeah. And then the other one is your destiny, that you're building towards, which you're given multiple destinies of your relationship, of how your relationship will end. And
this is like end game goals.
Yeah, these are like end game goals, like with your relationship, that also determine whether or not you actually stay as a couple at the end of the game. So you're also trying to whittle down which destiny you want to follow and trying to achieve that as well. So it's like you're trying to do your personal stuff, but also your relationship destiny, right. and it
seems like a lot of juggling.
Yeah,
I think without any visuals to help.
Yeah,
but I can tell you that it's pretty easy to go through once you're doing it.
Yeah, and it's great in that it kind of feels like a relationship because there's again, you don't just want your side of the relationship to succeed. Like, you don't want all your traits to succeed and not worry about the other person's. Like, you want them to meet their goals and you to meet your goals, so that when you do get to the final thing, that not only are you succeeding, but you're both meeting all of the criteria for how the relationship ends.
Right.
And it feels like you're actually building a relationship, and the fact that the game lets you create interesting characters with those traits, which again are you are the only one who sees the traits.
Mm-hmm.
And
please
then
be
also,
aware that I was a horrible person both times.
I was a horrible person the second time.
Yeah, the first time you were like this loving and caring person, and it's the luck of the draw of the cards.
Yeah.
So you kind of just have to play what's in your hand.
Yeah.
Because you can't really decide, well, I really want my character to be super nice and sweet, but all your cards are mean. They're going to be mean.
And you got to just play it that way.
Yeah, and so I just had to try to play it as best I could to match my character.
Yeah.
So what it turned into was my character constantly asking for favors, and John's character being played good because the personality traits that he had were all very nurturing and caring. Him just kind of letting me steamrolled over him. So it was very like, hey, I need money. Do you think you could give me money? And John's character would just be like, yeah, okay, here you go. You know what I mean? And it just made my character look like garbage.
Yeah, and then and then I also had a character in the second game. I had a character who was a little bit of a pervert.
Yeah. It ended up getting oddly sexual with your character.
Yeah, because one of his traits was sensual, which was all about experiencing
sexy time,
sexy stuff. Yeah. So that was fun.
I mean, we definitely had a blast playing it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I would definitely recommend playing this for anyone who's interested in this. And it sounds like the perfect board game that you would play
like on a date night with
someone, or double date, or like if you would want to do like a double date with friends, or friends to. Like I said, because it's not just, while it is a 2-player game, it is very easy to break it up into teams. Because, we had someone there that was spectating the entire time, and he was just like, holy shit, I'm having just as much fun as you guys just watching this all play out.
And he got to know, because we would literally be like, oh my god, and then as soon as he'd hear us react, he would just run over and look at our cards, and then he would be like, oh my god, and then start laughing. And like, it was nice to have somebody to enjoy the possibilities with.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it would be like, well, this card is crazy, I'm not going to use it, but it's crazy, and it's nice, and I can't tell like John, because that, you know, that's kind of against what the game is. But so I get to tell our friend.
Yeah. Well, there was like one that I was like, this is crazy, I'm not going to use it. And I was like, wait, yes, I am. And then kind of knew I was going to do it, and totally, totally did that. And I love the fact that there is a little bit of replayability. While yes, you're getting the same scenarios. Yes, you're getting the same.
Yeah, because like high
scenes.
school, there's no way High School Sweethearts, the second playthrough that we did, would ever come out the same as it did this time.
Yeah.
Where I was a like pretentious, cocky chemist, and you were a
heir
sensual.
I was royal blood.
Yeah, royal. Yeah, heir to royalty. Because that could easily be something different, where we, all of a sudden one character is artistic and very caring.
My character could have easily been the nerdy kid in high school.
Yeah, and so we played them like horribly, like they're all douchebags, but we could have had changing the characters changes the story entirely. Yeah. So you're playing the same scenario over again, but who is to say that this is...
Yeah, and you have to role play the character. So I mean, it's like literally it tells you after you've got your traits and you've got your occupation, and after your significant other has selected your the other
features,
the features that they noticed. You then kind of have to sit there, and you have to. The next part of it is you have to say what your character's name is, which you have to make up on the spot, and then you have to kind of combine it all in a way to explain your character on who your character is, without saying like, "Oh, yeah, I'm this nurturing, sensual, stoic person." No, it's like hey, my name is Fritz von Buckingham, and I'm the prince of of England, and I have 3 older brothers and an older sister, and there's no way I'm ever going to get the throne. Yeah. But I'm very respected within my family, and they listen to my opinions. And in our private school that we went to, I was captain of the debate team, and I was feared for debate. No one would debate me. Because I always thrash them, harshly. Yeah. And kind of like I'm explaining that, and then also also I was a little bit of a ladies' man, until I met, until
you and I got together.
Until I settled down and found the one that I loved, kind of thing. Like using everything that was in front of me, you create a character, and then. And then you play that character, and then one of the funny things is you said I had a high-pitched, squeaky voice, so
so you played it all.
So I did the whole thing for most of it. I kind of quit doing it after a while, but did it with a high-pitched, squeaky voice.
Yeah, we were having fun.
But yeah, we had fun with it, and your character was in one of the games was a musician who had a nose piercing and wore old-fashioned clothing. Yeah. So you were like this. You came up with this whole thing of like, oh, well, she's
hipster. I went hipster with it. Yeah, so I was thinking like 70s, like hippie rock star person. Yeah. I guess they meant like a girl in the 50s when they said old-fashioned.
Yeah. But the idea was that you came up with this whole thing of like this person in a band that plays kind of folksy music, but also punk rock.
Yeah, like angry folk music, essentially.
Yeah.
I kept thinking of Amanda Palmer.
Okay, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And, and like I said, you kind of play these characters, and then you kind of keep playing these characters.
Right, yeah, because you kept asking, this one, I really got to develop that character more than the other one, where you just by the cards that you were given, would ask questions that only I could answer, and I had to elaborate on things. So it was very like, who is an important person in your life? And then I created an entire story about my grandmother, or that character's grandmother.
Yeah.
And then you asked, like, what was one of your favorite memories growing up? And I talked about, like, ditching school and hanging out with friends and, like, doing drugs. And because, like, my character was a rocker kind of person, and I wanted her to be somebody that was, like, experimented with drugs and things like that. But within that, doing things like asking your character to spare me some money and kind of leeching off of your character.
Yeah.
It just changed what my character was. So initially I thought, like, oh, this fiercely independent woman who's kind of like a hippie punk, like grungy kind of rocker, just kind of lives her life the way she wants to live her life, kind of turned into this deadbeat really easily. And it was kind of fun to just to develop that character and turn it into something else.
Yeah.
And I literally used a manipulation tactic on your character where you have these things called reactions. So if somebody throws down a scene between the two of you where it's like you both have to answer a question, or one of you has to answer a question, and it didn't go the way you wanted it to, you can throw down a reaction. And sometimes they come off positive, sometimes they come off negative. And John asked a question of, is it okay if my ex comes to a party we're throwing? And I said it was fine. And I did it for no reason except that it made sense with the reaction I was going to put down. And so I said it was fine. And then we answered, we laid out all our points, and then I threw down my reaction afterwards, and my reaction was, you don't even care about my feelings. And it forces him to change his answer. And so my response turns into a very common argument that people would know, which is just no, it's fine. I just think it's funny that you don't even care about how I feel, and clearly it's not about what I think either way. Yeah. But it's fine. It's fine. I don't even care. It's fine. And then it's just how my character would react. So that's kind of how I played it off.
Well, and it was also interesting because you kind of went to the point of that. You had this idea in that game, your character was this strong, independent kind of hippie / punk rocker.
Yeah.
And then kind of by the end of the game, which your depiction of that character changed over the course based on the cards you were given.
Right.
Same thing kind of happened to mine as well in that same game. Because when we started out, my character I thought of as a deadbeat because he was, he was very calm, very... he was very laid back. I think laid back was one of his cards I had.
And I gave you stoner.
So stoner. He was a baker. We kind of made a joke that he made special brownies, kind of thing. And then by the end of it, he was keeping a secret from your character, which was that he was trying to start his own business and didn't know if it would work and didn't want to worry you.
Yeah.
So it's like he went from being this kind of deadbeat, lazy... Because that was another thing that was he was also lazy, I think. So he kind of went from being this deadbeat, lazy character to kind of being responsible, starting up his own business.
Yeah.
And it was a weird, with not even intentional kind of role swap, where we didn't even, neither of us kind of knew that's where we were going with it. And it's just by pure...
But that's also kind of organic.
Yeah.
Very being in a relationship takes you on different journeys, and growing up, growing older, living life with another person, you're bound to do a lot of things, a lot of growing together. But you're still an independent person unless you're somebody that's glued to the hip of the person you're with.
Yeah.
And so you will often kind of unite in part over time, and not drastically. I don't think people some people do, but not every relationship is a break up, get back together, like take a break, get back together kind of thing. But you unite in part with it, meaning like you are sometimes very involved and into each other, and then sometimes you like part to kind of explore your own things.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what this is simulating, is that idea of like, well, he really is getting into baking more, but like in his, because he was a baker. I don't know if we said that, but
yeah.
Like, and so, but in more of a creating his own recipes and doing his own like shop instead of having a bakery that he worked for. He would create his own bakery, and my character was this independent woman, but then she kind of needed some money, and then it turned into a thing where she realized that he would kind of just give her whatever she wanted. So she kept asking, and it kind of changed for a negative in her way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And what I love about it is like that's just us playing without actually really much changing as far as like the base cards that we had. Mm-hmm. But in the second game, we actually encountered something where your traits that you started off with, the 3 traits that define your character, which define what your goals are supposed to be at the end, at the end of the game. We played things where those traits got changed.
Yeah, one of the ones I used was something like a psychologist. Like my character went to visit a psychologist, and so one of my traits changed, and I changed it drastically. But you get a choice. Yeah, and so I needed to get rid of one because I was never going to get what I needed. And I changed from a perfectionist to a cynic, and then from a cynic to a submissive. So I went from being this like much more stern character in the beginning to a submissive character by the end.
Yeah.
And it was funny because we were both like horrible people the entire time. Yeah. But then I became kind of a tired, horrible person where I was just like, whatever you want to do, we'll just do that. It's kind of how I took it. Not so much like a demoralized person, but more just like over the argument part of it. And just like, okay, we'll do that. Where she used to be a fiercely... I need to be right all the time person. Yeah.
And I think it was interesting because if you actually look at it with the first game, I don't know about you in the first game, but I didn't meet a lot of my personal goals. Mm-hmm. The trait goals that I had, I think I maybe got like 1 or 2 of them, of the 3. But in the end, the relationship we met all the requirements for the Destiny cards, and our relationship, we stayed together as a couple. Like, we made it work. In the second game, I hit all of my relationship goals.
I think I only hit, like, 1 of mine.
And we hit none of the actual Destiny ones, so that couple broke up.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of interesting, that points out that sometimes focusing on your stuff and not the other person's stuff as well can hurt. And there's aspects of this game where you can't really tell people what your end goal is, but you can kind of hint at what you need. And again, it's like a real relationship in a lot of ways. And that's where there are like multiple mechanics that you have to kind of keep track of, because that's kind of a very rudimentary version of how a relationship works.
Yeah. I think the funny thing is, and I'm not going to turn it into a full-blown relationship conversation, but in romantic movies and comedies mostly, the main issue with a relationship is a lack of communication, where it's just like, well, if you just told John Cusack how you felt, you guys would already be in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the funny thing about not telling people your personality, or not telling them what your goals are.
Yeah.
Because if you just said, hey, I really need this, they would give it to you.
Yeah.
But because
you
can't, because it's a movie, essentially, because this is what drives your story forward, like in movies, like in books.
Yeah.
Why doesn't the character just come out and say this? Because that's part of the game.
Yeah.
But in real life, like we're talking about me and you, we talk about our issues all the time.
Yeah.
We like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, and then you go, oh, okay, let me fix that. Or you say, hey, you did this, and I go, oh, okay, I'm sorry, let work on that, and then we have a thriving relationship.
Yes.
We don't have to worry about destiny cards at the end.
Yes, yeah, no, we don't. But I think that's one of the things that makes the story that's being told by the game fun. It's part of why it makes it so entertaining, especially entertaining for other people who are just watching, because maybe they're not like we're with our friend, and they're not like looking and seeing what cards we're pulling and going out of their way, but they're just kind of watching how the
story unfurls.
His story is unfurling for this, and it just makes it very interesting. Mm-hmm. I liked this game so much that we came home and I immediately bought it. Like, I went on Walmart.com and ordered it, and we're going to...
And the expansion, right?
And I bought one of the expansions. There are actually 3 expansions, which is kind of what I want to... We have not played any of the expansions, but there are 3 expansions. So the game on Walmart.com is like $35, which, let me tell you, the quality of the material in this box, like, it's actually really, really high quality. Like, I honestly... When I played this, I was like, man, this is going to be one of those games you go to a game store and pay $60 for. At least. Yeah. And then go to Walmart.com and it's $35. You are definitely getting high quality material for what you're paying for.
Yeah, so you're getting markers that are made out of wood. You're getting tokens for answering questions that are poker chips.
Yeah.
So, and they're like with that weight to them.
Yeah.
The box is really set up to fit any expansions that you have. It's really high quality. So normally if it's that cheap, you would expect a lot of things to be like paper or cardboard.
Or those little punch out cardboard tokens or whatever.
But no, these are like wood tokens. These are like full blown pieces. So it was just really nice to get that full.
And then, like I said, they have 3 expansions, which are only like $15 a piece, which is, again, a good price, I feel, just based on what I'm reading. The 3 expansions are It Will Never Last, which is basically your characters have absolutely nothing in common. You're set up for failure, essentially, at the very beginning, and then you two have to figure out a way to make it work. This is essentially hard mode for this game, is that you're purposefully made it so that your characters are not compatible.
Yeah.
And so from there you go to try to figure out a way to make them compatible without, while still playing those characters.
Right.
There's the expansion that I actually purchased, which is Paranormal Romance. You tell a powerful cinematic love story that will leave a lasting impression and echo through future plays of the game, which apparently there are with the Paranormal Romance. It's meant to be played in multiple sessions, and the first set, there's a full game is technically 2 full games, and the first one directly impacts the second one, is the way it implied, and also will, in fact, in some way impact possible future expansions as well, which I think is also interesting, because apparently how you play the first session unlocks certain cards for the second session. And then the third one, which I thought was actually really cool, and I kind of regret not buying this one once I found out more about it, is called Trouble with the In-Laws. And it's your parents have arrived, and they've brought their opinions. Can you juggle keeping them happy as well as your partner? And what this does is it adds 2 more players to the game to bring it to 4 players. So you have the couple, and then one of the couple's parents.
Yeah.
So you can play it as one. I'm assuming you can probably play it as one parent, or you can play it as 2 parents.
Yeah.
And so there's this whole thing of you're trying to make the relationship work, and the parent is trying to almost sabotage it.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to do a thing where the parents are happy, but also you're happy with the relationship. It adds more. It seems really interesting. I was actually kind of more impressed with that one once I actually started reading more about it. Mm-hmm. I didn't buy that one, but I kind of might soon. Mm-hmm. Probably not right now.
Yeah, maybe we'll try out the other expansion and see how that goes before we jump into adding more.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, it seems like a really fun game, and I'm actually, like I said, I really liked it, and I bought it because of our experience with it, and I look forward to playing more of it. I would say we would do like a video of it or something of us playing it, but I don't have any video cameras, so can't really do that.
Yeah.
At the moment. It's something maybe in the future. I don't know. But yeah, no, I really liked it. And I would highly recommend going to play it. Like I said, the website, if you want to look up more info on it, is fogoflove.com. If you're in the U.S., it is for sale exclusively through walmart.com. Just go to Walmart's website and do a search for Fog of Love. If you're in Europe, Canada, and Australia, it is for sale from various retailers. Their website, fogoflove.com, actually has a list of retailers that you can buy this at. Mm-hmm. There's also on their website, they have walkthrough videos and review videos and playthrough videos. Like I think Polygon did a playthrough video of it, and then some other like gaming YouTube channel also did a video of it. Mm-hmm. So they have links to some of that stuff on their website as well, so you can kind of see what we're talking about. But I think that's going to be all the time we have this week.
So that's it.
Yeah, that's going to be all the time we have this week, and I do apologize. Unfortunately, due to recording schedules, Amanda and I are recording this very late at night. So I apologize if towards the end here we got a little rambly or befuddled or
starting to snore.
Something like that. But yeah, so hopefully next week we'll be back. Unfortunately, my schedule has kind of not been lining up with it. Our schedule's not been lining up with any of the other podcast co-hosts, which is why it's just been me and Amanda for the last couple of weeks here.
Well, it'd be weird if it was you and Rod doing the Valentine's Day.
I agree.
So are you two going to talk about your love for each other?
No. But I agree. Maybe you want to submit an idea for a topic, or maybe there's a movie or a book or a genre or a media type that you want to hear more of us about. You can always contact us, geekbombast@gmail.com. Send us an email. If you're watching this video on YouTube, you can always comment on the episode. Reply to the episode. Did you like this episode? Did you like us talking about board games? Do you want us to talk about more board games in the future? Do you think board games maybe not? Talk about? Let us know. If you're on Twitter, you can tweet at us at geekbombast.com. Obviously we post a picture of the episode image along with whatever else we can think of to post on there on our Instagram page, which is at Geek Bombast. If you don't know where to find the podcast, like you're listening to it, maybe you're wanting to know how to subscribe to it or whatnot, we are on iTunes, we are on Stitcher, we are on Spotify, and we're probably on a bunch of other places that collect podcast information from the internet. Mm-hmm. But if you can, we would appreciate if you subscribe to us on either Stitcher or iTunes. Please leave a review, rate the show, leave a review. It helps us out a whole lot. Get noticed on both of those platforms. You don't have to go to both of them and leave a review or not. I'm just saying
bonus points if you do, though.
Bonus points if you do, but if you happen to subscribe to us on one of those platforms, we would appreciate if you would leave a review and rate the show. We are on YouTube. We are literally 24 people away from being subscribed on YouTube, from being able to actually get an actual decent YouTube URL.
Yeah. We're so close.
We're so close. So, if you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube, definitely do. Please subscribe. Also, ring the bell on there, because then you'll get updates on whatever.
Yeah, you get a notification when our posts or new posts are up.
Yeah, you get a notification for that, and
I hate to sound like a bad YouTuber, but like, comment, and subscribe, because those all help. When you comment, it helps us show up in your sub box. If you're not going to hit that bell, that's your choice. But if you like our video, then the next time a video gets posted, it'll more likely show up on your subscription feed if you hit the like button, if you comment, anything like that.
And we're going to try to get some other videos up on the YouTube channel.
We're working on it.
Soon that are not just podcast related, maybe some Let's Plays. Don't know of what yet. But we are working on it. And, if you're...
Just dating simulators and wrestling games.
Yeah, maybe some westerns. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so... I'm trying to think if there was anything else I'm leaving out on the YouTube. I mean, if you don't know what our YouTube URL is right now, because we don't have an actual legit, easy-to-find YouTube URL, you can always go to bit.ly/Geek Bombast. That's all lowercase, no capitals, all together, one word. And having said all of that, I'm John Sitton.
I'm Amanda Arias.
And we're out.